I'm going to talk you through the steps on how to disassemble the brakes of a 92 to 95 Honda Civic, the rear drum brakes. Those were the tools you needed in the earlier screen. All right, here's the drum. I'm pointing out the two holes where you screw in the bolts to push out the drum. Screwing them in. I have my ratchet, power ratchet, and you're alternating between the two bolts and you're screwing them in, and you'll see in a second that I can jiggle it out. It might take a little more effort if it hasn't been removed in a while. Might need to tap it with a mallet. Alright, so I'm pointing out that the first thing I would do is remove that retaining pin or retaining spring, and then you remove those side clips, which would then allow you to remove the spring at the bottom very easily. I've done this before in the past, the old-fashioned way, and it took a long time to be able to remove those springs. This way is much easier. I could have done this probably in 5 minutes, but because I was stopping to record the video and zoom in and out, it took a little, maybe 8 minutes. And there's the first spring. That's the easy one. And now with a flathead screwdriver, you apply pressure to the side pin, and with the other hand in the back, you swivel that little pin so that it comes out of the groove. Struggled a bit with this first one, so just push in and then you swivel this pin and it comes out. I always like to remove the pin so that it doesn't accidentally fall out and lose and get lost. So just take it out and then put it somewhere safely. Now the other side comes off pretty easily. Kind of getting the hang of it here. So again, you apply pressure, rotate the little pin in the back, and it comes right out. Now, next step is to remove the drum brake part right there I'm pointing to, so that it slips out in front of that bracket. So this takes a little bit of finagling. You're applying pressure at the top and pulling it out at the bottom. That's what I'm motioning there. So you're pulling out the spring at the bottom, expanding it so that it comes out. Kind of blocking the view there, but you get the idea. I'm going to zoom in to show you that that piece right there is now above or in front of that bracket. And you're going to do the same to the other side. All you got to do is pull it out a bit and slips out, and watch this. That spring that is so hard to remove comes off just like that because nothing's holding it in. Okay, so now the last challenge, minor challenge, is to jiggle it out, jiggle the assembly out from the top. Keeping in mind that the only thing holding it in still is the brake cable at the back. So right now the brake cable is still holding it in at the bottom, but you should be able to pinch, squeeze, and jiggle the assembly out from the top. And you have to rotate it a bit, side to side. And I'm going to point out now what it looks like from that angle. And what's holding it in is the spring and some of the other components. And you want to make sure not to scratch or damage or tear the rubber boot at the piston at the top. What I could have done was apply some lube or grease to make it slip out a little bit easier, but eventually it'll come out. There you go. Here I'm going to rotate it to one side to expose the rear brake cable, and I'm going to give you a view of the back side of it. See that spring over the cable? You want to put a screwdriver back there and pry it out a bit so that it allows more free play from the brake housing or the brake assembly. So I'm going to take a screwdriver. I try to do it by hand, but it's kind of hard. And I'm going to be blocking the view a bit. Sorry about that. But you get the idea. You're prying up that little cable with the spring, and it should come out. Sometimes it's easier. Okay, all right, so I loosened it out, and now it is in a position where you could remove that cable. And here's the trick that I use. You can use a locking vice grip or just a pointy needle nose plier that I had handy when I removed that initial retaining spring at the beginning, the first step. So here I'm going to demonstrate how to push back the spring to give more room so that you could bend that cable out from that socket right there. Okay, you see the end of the cable, the business end of it needs to come out, and so you're pushing that cable forward. And I think with another screwdriver would have helped. Oh, but here you see, the camera's slipping a bit, and unfortunately, right at the point where I was able to remove that little cable, the camera went out of view. I didn't have a tripod, I just placed my camera on a box beside me. Okay, so it came out, and that's what you have left. And now everything is still together. If you do it the right way, it won't fall apart. I mean, I didn't want to replace the brake drums padding because it was still good. What I was doing here was actually removing that whole hub, and I had to take that cable out because I was working on my trailing arm bushing, and so I needed to actually take the cable out from the hub, which was a chore, but it's doable. It's just a matter of clamping the cable together. So here I'm just showing you that if you want to disassemble the whole thing, you pull that out and it pops right out. You don't need to remove any springs at the top. It just pops right out if you pull that part right there out. And then for those of you who do want to replace your drum brake pads, just keep in mind how it goes back together. There's a little, I call it a horseshoe clip. Horseshoe clip. I don't know if I'm going to zoom in or not, but there's a way to remove that clip, and once that's out, you're done. You can replace the drum pads. So a special thanks to Eric the Car Guy, Old School Funk, and Chris Fix. Thanks for watching.